to my channel, Colorful Tamiko, Adult Coloring for Beginners. This tutorial is about blending colored pencils part 2. In part 1, I showed you 12 ways to blend colored pencils. And for those who missed that video, I'll link it in the top right corner of this video. In that video, we went through the 12 techniques on how to blend. In this video, I'm going to take those same techniques to a coloring book. I'll show you how to apply those same techniques to a flower in Ivy and the Inky Butterfly by Johanna Basford so that you can see how to apply them to your coloring books. So let's get started and get into this tutorial. So we'll be working in this book and we'll be working on this page here. And I've already have two examples. Let me get this out of the way. Two examples that I've done already on how to blend pencils, but I'm going to do one on camera for you guys on how to blend the pencils in the 12 techniques that we use. And I started out on this one, and this is what the flower that we're going to finish up on camera. So let me just put that the right way. And the colors that I'll be using, the pencils that I'll be using is Prismacolors. I always use Prismacolors usually because that's the color pencils that most people have. And if you wanted to follow along, I want you to be able to use the pencils that you have. If you don't have Prismacolors, don't worry. You can use any pencils. Just choose a coloring palette. And when I choose a color palette, I like to choose a dark color, a medium color. I like to choose a dark color, a medium color, and a light color. And the colors that I'm going to be working with today, my dark tone color is going to be Black Cherry PC 1078. And then my mid-tone color is going to be Dark Purple PC 931. And then my light tone is going to be Mulberry PC 995. And I'm also going to do another color, which is going to be a tonal color. And that's going to be Hot Pink. And so when I do a saturation tonal color, a saturation color, I'll bring in another color, which will be Deco Pink. And I'll show you guys exactly how to use that one when we do that. But right now, I'm going to set that to the side. So right now, we're just going to work on these 4 colors. And the reason I chose 4 colors is because the flower is kind of big. So I wanted to be able to stretch out the colors through the flower, as you can see I've done. So I'm just going to start off with the darkest color, which is Black Cherry. And you want to start off right at the beginning of the flower. And I think I'm zoomed in enough. So we're going to start off right here. And we're going to start off with hard pressure. And you're just going to go hard pressure around the edge of the flower. And then you're going to lighten up the pressure to introduce the next color. And then you're going to do the same at the top here. So you're going to add that same color with dark pressure. And then you're going to lighten it up so you can introduce the next color. And try to keep your colors separated so you know which colors you're doing first and second. And I'm just going to darken this up just a little more because it's not dark enough. Just so I know which color is which, because these colors are kind of similar to each other. So now I'm going to go to the next color. And my next color is going to be dark purple. And I want to go back to my black cherry because it doesn't look like I put a lot right here. So I'm just going to add a little bit more, just a little. Trying to eyeball it. Okay, now I'm going to go to my next color, which is dark purple, PC931. And I'm going to introduce that color where that light color started out. And I'm going to go hard pressure right where that light color started out. And you want to go hard pressure, then you want to lighten it up. And you want to do the same at the other end. You want to add hard pressure. Then you're going to lighten it up. And I'm just going to add a little more on this end, just so I know we got enough. So if you have to go back over it multiple times to get more layers, to get darker colors, that's fine. You don't want to go in too heavy-handed. You want to just add the layers and build up one of the layers. You don't really want to just push too hard on that pencil, because then you'll make indentations in your paper and you'll wear out your paper. You'll wear out the tooth of your paper. It's easier just to add layers of color than to wear out the tooth of your paper. So now let's go to the next color, which is my mulberry PC995. And PC995, you just go in hard pressure and then you add light pressure when you want to add a new color. So I'm going to go in hard pressure and then I'm going to lighten it up as I go out. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other end. I'm going to go hard pressure. And I'm going to lighten it up as I go out, so that you can introduce the next color. And then I'm going to do this a couple times around the flower, maybe twice, and then I'll speed up the video so we can get to the end and add the burnishing effects to the flowers. So I'm just adding my last color, and because I have that blank spot right there, I can just add that right on in. I don't have to go light pressure, hard pressure. I can go all one pressure. And I'm going to do that again around the flower. So we're going to have a light area all the way around the flower once we get all the way around the flower. And so I'm going to do another one on camera. And I think I'm going to do this one right here so you guys can see. And I'm using my black cherry again. Just the darkest color I have. And I'm going hard pressure. And then I lighten up with light pressure. And I do the same thing to both ends of the flower. Let me come out a little bit so you guys can see and so I can see what I'm doing. And so I'm adding that light pressure right there where I'm going to add the next color. And my next color is going to be dark purple. And right where I want to add that next color, I go in hard pressure. And then I go light pressure. And I go in hard pressure down here. And then I go in light pressure. Then I add my next color, which is Mulberry, PC955. And I go hard pressure. And then I go light pressure again. And I do the same thing down here, hard pressure. And then light pressure again. And I want to make sure I have that gap right there for my last color. And so now I have this small gap right here. So I'm just going to color that straight in. You don't have to go hard pressure, light pressure. You just want to go kind of medium pressure. And just color that straight in. Now remember, it's not, I haven't blended the colors out yet or burnished it yet. So we still have some more work to do on it. So it looks like it's not blended yet. But we have the colors laid down. And I'm just going to darken these colors up just a little bit, add another layer. Just so when I burnish it, we'll have enough color laid down. And so I'm just going to my next color like I did before. And just adding a little bit of more layers. The hardest part is just remembering where your color begins and where it ends, so that you add the next layers, the next color. That's the hardest part to this. Other than that, it's not hard to do at all. It's actually pretty simple, and the steps are pretty simple once you know what to do. So I'm going to do the rest of the flower and probably speed it up. And then we're going to go to the burnishing part. Okay, now we have our flower and we have our color laid down, and it's looking great. Now I suggest that if you're doing a flower for the first time, to do a smaller flower, because it's much easier to get the rings around there in an even fashion. It takes work to do that in an even fashion. But our flower doesn't look complete though. We're not complete because we haven't burnished it yet. Right now we just laid the colors down. So we need to burnish it and give it some shine and make it look like these two flowers down here. And the way that we do that is we taught the 12 techniques to burnish it. Now I can burnish this whole pencil, this whole flower with just white, but I'm only going to do one petal with just white so I can show you guys how to burnish it with the white pencil. And the white pencil I'm using is the Prismacolor pencil 938, PC 938. And I'm just going to do one petal. And I'm going to choose this petal up here. Maybe I'll do two petals. And so when you burnish it with the white, you just take the white across it evenly and you do hard pressure like this. Ah, I knew that was going to happen. So let me sharpen my pencil again because my pencil broke. Okay, let's try that again. You don't want to do too hard pressure like I just did and break the lid. But hard pressure across the flower will burnish the color out and smooth the colors together. And that's how it look if we use white. And now I'm going to do white on another petal because we have more than 12 petals here, of course. Now I like to use white as burnishing and as blending because it gives it a different color. It kind of mutes out the color and gives it a milky look, which we learned in the last video. But that's the way it looks when you burnish it with white. Now we're going to burnish it with a tonal color. And a tonal color is just using the lighter color that's in your palette that you chose. So since I chose a purple palette, I'm going to use like a light pink to burnish with. And I'm going to burnish these two with light pink. And I like the way that looks. I keep breaking my leg. I got to stop pushing so hard. And you just do it over the whole petal. And so that's how that one looks. So I'm going to do the next one so we can get a comparison of how it would look if we was to burnish it 12 different ways like we did. Actually, I think it's only 7, but we'll see. And so that's burnishing with a lighter color. And you see how nice and blended that looks now? You can tell what's blended and what's not blended. So the other blending technique we used was a blending stump. And I have a blending stump here, a smaller one. I think actually I'm going to use this size one. But I have two different sizes. And I showed you in the other video that when you use a blending stump, you want to make sure you clean it off. So I'm going to clean it off off camera so it doesn't get on my paper. and you just take the blending stump and you press into the paper with the blending stump. And I'm going to do 2 of them with the blending stump. So that just smashes the color into the paper basically. So you see that one petal right there, that's the blending stump one that we just did. And I tend to like the white better. I don't really care for the blending stump, but in the blending stump, you have to make sure you have a lot of color on. So this petal looks like it's missing a little bit of color. So let's just add a little more color right here. So now, and that's the blending stump. So you see the difference between the blending stump and, can you see that? Let me just zoom in a little bit just so you can see the difference between the blending stump and the blending stump and the white and the tonal. So this is the white, this is the tonal, and this is the blending stump. The next one I'm going to use is, I'm going to use Gamma Sol, and I'm going to use Gamma Sol with Q-tip. But first I'm going to add some more color to this just to make sure we got enough color laid down with Gamma Sol. So I'm going to take the Gamma Sol and go to the next one that we haven't done, which is this one. And you can tell we haven't done it because it's still white specks showing on the paper. So let me zoom out just a little bit so you can see that. So you see the white specks still showing on the paper. So we're going to take some Gamma Sol, and I'm just going to take a paintbrush actually. Actually, I'm just going to take my stump and dip it into my Gamma Sol. And then we're just going to smooth that out. And you have to be careful not to go outside the lines and not to tear up the paper, because the Gamma Sol can eat up the paper, but that's how it looks when you do it with Gamma Sol. So now that one's blended. Now I'm going to go to the next one, which is baby oil that we did on the last one. On the last video we did with baby oil. And I'm going to take a Q-tip. Oh, I guess I should have did 2 Gamma Sols, but we're just going to do 1 Gamma Sol for now. I'm going to take a Q-tip. And since I have some baby oil right around the edge of here, I'm just going to take some baby oil from there. And I'm going to take my Q-tip and we're going to go right here on this petal and we're going to blend it out with the Q-tip. And I'm going to do 2 of them because it's hard not to do both of them with this big Q-tip. And see how it looks with the Q-tip? It's blended out now. So the one next to it is not blended out, and you can see the white specks. And because I've shown you all of the techniques to blend out, I've shown you the white pencil, I've shown you the tonal with a lighter color, I showed you gamma saw, I showed you a blending stump. Oh, I have to show you the colorless blender. And so this is a colorless blender. And so I'm going to blend it with, I like to use colorless blender a lot, especially when I'm doing like faces. But this is the next one to do with a colorless blender. So you just take the colorless blender. It's just wax. It doesn't have any color in it. And I'm going to do 2 of those with the colorless blender. Gosh, just keep breaking. And it leaves a lot of wax on the paper when you do it that way, but I can just brush those wax pieces away. And that's the way it looks when it's with the colorless blender. So now we have all of our techniques of how to blend it out. Now this half have not been blended out, and I'm just going to go ahead and blend out the rest of the flower with my colorless blender, so you guys can see how the rest of the flower looks when it's blended out. And try to blend from your lightest to your darkest. You do your darkest last, and you do your lightest first. So you want to go from the middle out. From the middle out. And that just gets rid of that white tooth, and it blends the color together. And I'm just going to speed this up so you guys can see how it looks in the end. So this is how it will look if it was all blended out. And it looks pretty good. It looks like a nice flower. And so when you burnish, after you burnish once, you want burnishing to be like the last thing you do on your page. You kind of don't want to do anything else to it. But usually what I do to it after burnishing is I might add in just a little bit of details, just so the flower doesn't look as flat. And like in the white areas, I might add that line back in. And the ones that I did with white pencil, I might add that line back in right there, just so that the flower doesn't look faded out. But after burnishing, you kind of don't want to do anything else to the flower. And this is the end of my blending video part 2. I don't know if we'll have another blending series. I'm sure we will sometime in the future. But for now, these are your basic blending techniques, and I hope you enjoyed this video. So please subscribe to my channel. It really helps with boosting my channel to get YouTube to show my videos. Also, hit the bell notification button so you can be notified when I upload more videos. Thank you and have a colorful day.